Man, Olin's probably got to be pretty psyched because the Bears finally used a draft asset on an offensive lineman. I mean, it might be a swing tackle. We'll see. But how about it? A second-round draft pick on a tackle. What were your thoughts on them using an asset like that?
Well, I mean, they also drafted Darnell Wright, and Karan Amagaji last year in the third round. So they've been drafting guys. You're just waiting for someone to develop into, I think Coach Wannstedt likes to call them blue players, elite football players that you need on that offensive line. But it's always good to see them taking offensive linemen like Ozzy Trapilo, who a lot of people have respect for. Big guy, right? Can move, blocks well. A lot of people saw him as a swing tackle. A lot of people saw him more as a right tackle. Interesting to hear Ryan Poles talk about, we're going to start him over there on the left side and see how he develops, because a lot of people didn't see him that way going into the draft. But we will see, and like you're saying, we've been calling for a lot of years for them to put more assets into that O-line room. And you can't complain about the amount of assets they put into their offensive line room this year with the center, Dahlman, right? They're going to move Jonah Jackson to right guard with Tooney at left guard, and now Trapilo. And then, they had another draft pick, Luke Newman, in the 6th round. So they've been adding guys, Karan Amagaji, Darnell Wright. Now we just want to see that group take another step.
Is it realistic to think, Olin, you mentioned that Ryan Poles said that they want to work Trapilo out at left tackle. Is it realistic to think that he could actually start at left tackle to begin this season?
It is realistic to think that when you think about where Braxton Jones is with his injury, right, and where he's coming off of, and they got to see where he's at after minicamp and going through the summer and going through training camp, and then Karan Amagaji and Trapilo battling maybe for that left tackle job, right? They play next to Joe Tooney, who will help a lot. Obviously, Tooney will help, having a veteran presence there at left guard, a guy who's played at an all-pro level, who's played a lot of football, will help a young offensive tackle there. But it is, I think, Grody, and you're on the team a lot more than me, I think it is realistic to think that this guy could start there at left tackle as long as he shows that he can handle that position. And you got to count on, obviously, the quarterback taking another step, becoming a better football player, the ball coming out faster, and him making everybody around him better.
It's interesting to hear Bill O'Brien on the station this week, Olin, talk about how Ozzy Trapilo moved from left to right, in his words, principally because they had another kid there who could only play left. Like, he's left-handed and could only set up there, but Ozzy was somebody who could do both. Can Braxton do both? Like, if Braxton ends up as the swing for some reason, should we feel good about his ability to do both? Can anybody do both these days?
Well, I'll answer that simply. Braxton Jones could do both at Boston College, right? But doing it in the NFL is a totally different thing. So Ozzy Trapilo, we will see if he can move over and do both and play at a high level, at a level that you need to play at to protect the quarterback's blind side. So we will see. I didn't think Trapilo was a guy when you came into the draft. I didn't think he was a guy you were going to take and start him at left tackle. But it'll be interesting seeing the Bears have done a lot more work on him than I have. Obviously, their scouts have watched a lot more film and talked to a lot of people like Bill O'Brien, like his strength coach, like his offensive line coach down there at Boston College. If you ask me personally, after watching film, I think it's a little bit of a reach to ask him to start there at left tackle early in the year. But again, if you put a really good left guard next to him, a really good center, your quarterback is taking a step. You have all these, you have Rome Odunze, who took 9th in the draft. You took Loveland there at tight end, right? You have DJ Moore. You have a lot of weapons to protect one. You can't have an all-pro guys at every position, right? They have flooded that offense with a lot of talent. They went out and got what a lot of people consider was the best play caller in the NFL and made him the head coach, right? They've put a lot of assets on that offense side of the ball. Now it's time for that thing to all come together, and you can't have all pros at every position. So they need a guy to raise their level, come and take that job. Be ready to compete, right? Be ready to compete for that left tackle spot. That's what we do here in Chicago. We find one spot on the offense, and we worry like hell about it.
Yes, we do. To your point about how you can't have gold at every position, you can't have all-pro at every position, the Bears are entering a season in which they kind of missed out on the rush of running backs. I mean, I think it was in their mind to take one of those running backs. They do get Kyle Monungai, but should we look at DeAndre Swift differently because of Drew Dahlman, Joe Tooney, and Jonah Jackson? Does he deserve the benefit of the doubt like everybody else seems to be getting because the offensive line in theory is better now?
Yeah, I think he does, but also you can turn on his Eagles film and see him with the best offensive line in the league, right? And you can see what you got on film. That's why I was a little bit shocked last year when he came here and everybody was shocked that he wasn't running downhill between the tackles. That's not what he does, right? He didn't do that in Philadelphia. He didn't do that in Detroit, and he didn't do that here. So I was not shocked, but obviously, going into the season, you want to give a guy the benefit of the doubt. I watched when Kyle, his name always gets me, man.
Manungai.
Yeah.
Manungai, it's a weird
him.
one.
My son's played against him. My son plays linebacker for Illinois. We watched this guy. This guy is tough, guys, man. Now, you worry about that translating to the NFL with his size, right? You worry about that downhill style. But I watched this guy drag piles. I remember telling my son, you better strap the hell up after watching him on film, because this guy is going to run downhill, run into your chest. He's going to do pass pro. He does everything right. When they took him, I was like, oh, I remember watching that kid. That kid is a tough, hard-nosed football player. So they added to that room. A lot of people thought they got a steal there in the 7th round. I'm one of those guys. I think they got a little bit of a steal. Now, how he translates to the NFL with his physical attributes, nothing jumps out at you, right? Nothing really jumps out at you in what he does. You wonder if that'll translate, running over college kids and running over NFL guys. I don't got to tell you guys, it's two totally different things. But there's no way you can't like his film coming out of Rutgers. There's no way you can't like the way he played football for his team, the way he battled, how many carries he had, the things he did. So it'll be interesting going to that. But, Grody, to your question, yeah, I mean, you want to see Swift, right, with Tooney, Jonah Jackson, and Dahlman, the three in the middle, right, that they put up a Brinks truck, backed it up, and dumped it to the middle of their offensive line, all that money to protect their young quarterback. Yeah, I'd like to see the way he could run behind those guys. And I don't know if we're going to have an option. Like that's who you're going to have there at running back when you decide to take, a tight end, and then you had to take a receiver the year before. You have another receiver in DJ Moore. A lot of weapons there to play with, a lot of things to beat other teams with. We will see as they go into the season.
A lot of teams in the NFL will go ahead and hand at least the shared starter role of running back to a rookie. They'll just go ahead and do it these days. It's very common practice. So as they seem to miss out on whether it was Henderson or Judkins from Ohio State or some of the other guys, then they would keep trading down. I'm with you, I think they're going to give this kid, even though he's 7th round, I think they're going to give him a real shot. Sort of like the Chiefs did with Isaiah Pacheco, a 7th rounder. You can find guys in the 7th round sometimes, especially at the skill positions when they're not big, tough linemen like you. They're just, they're just runners. but it's like, I'll be okay if they don't go get a Nick Chubb or a J.K. Dobbins and they start with Manungai and Swift and let's see who else on
Roshan,
that. Maybe Roshan or Ian Wheeler, who's so super speedy. If he comes back healthy, he looked good in camp last year. I'm okay with it. Are you okay with it if they don't bring in another vet?
Yeah, I mean, I'll see what Coach Bieniemy. I have a lot of respect for Coach Eric Bieniemy. I think a lot of people do in the NFL, and that's the guy they hired to get into that running back room and develop the young running backs. But yes, I like I just told you guys, I'm a fan of the young running back they took in the 7th round. I'd like to see him get some shots at that job. Obviously, I think the guys you mentioned, I don't think you're going to have to give them a ton of money to get them in there, especially with Chubb's history, injury history. I know he is a good running back before, but he's only played, I think, 10 games in the last 2 years. So there's some worry there of what he is, what he has left. Can he overcome that injury? And maybe you can get him for a bargain price. And like we talked about the offensive line room, why not put more guys into a room? And you're going to need, Speaks, you just mentioned, you're going to need more than one running back during the year. And rarely do you see a guy make it through all 17 games, right? You're going to need guys to carry, get the carries late in the season, middle of the season. You need a bunch of guys there to carry the workload. The Bears don't seem like they have that one star guy who's going to do all the work, right? Who's going to catch balls out of the backfield, who's going to run downhill between tackles. So why not do it by committee?
Olin Kreutz is with us here on Spiegel and Holmes on The Score. This was a draft that while it was happening, there were a few times where I was like, what are they doing, And maybe I just fell for some of the narratives that were out there in the draft prep, and I was a part of them, of course. But I've been able to contextualize and kind of think about it and be like, oh, okay, I get that one. Okay, I get that one. Is there any pick that still sits a little weird with you? Any pick that you're still like, boy, I don't really get that. I don't understand exactly what the thought is with this particular guy.
Yeah, the only one I would say is, when they took Luther Burden in the second round, who is a great football player, another guy that I've been hearing about for years, playing over there at East St. Louis, right? He played the same years as my boys, and they were like, you got to watch this kid play football, and he is a hell of a football player. But I saw that they took him, and I saw New Orleans was after. New Orleans already took a tackle there in the first round, so I thought to myself, perfect time to take Ursary out of Minnesota, right? The kid who was Big Ten Offensive Lineman of the Year. Answer your left tackle question. You need a left tackle? Take the left tackle who's the Big Ten Offensive Lineman of the Year out of the University of Minnesota. So, look, I'm not like that. I'm not high on Ozzy Trapilo. I am. I just thought that would have been a good pick, but they turned it into 2 picks, and they got Shamar Turner, who a lot of people are high on with the way he plays football and stops the run and uses his hand and his violence in the middle of the offensive line. But that would be one, Speaks, that I would say, okay, now you had a chance there to add a guy who just plays left tackle. Right, like you had all your answers there. You had Darnell Wright, you had your whole line. Plug that guy in, let him compete against Braxton Jones and Kranan Bagaji. Instead, you left a little questions out there. So that's one a little bit that I'll be looking at down the years. Obviously, Monday morning quarterback, right? Like, why didn't you just take the left tackle? But that's one. If you ask me what I'm looking at, that would be it.
There was a point last season, I think it was the Arizona game, where I realized, oh, no, the defense might not be that great. The run defense may not be, because James Conner was doing his thing. Amari DeMarcado had that, 58-yard run at the end of the half, and you're like, what the hell is going on? The Bears this year signed, that was very passive-aggressive, Grady Jarrett this year, and they go and draft Shamar Turner. How much better, if at all, do you think the defensive line will be this year?
And I don't got to tell you this, Gross, but so is Billings coming back, right? They missed him a lot last year. I think he got hurt, right? I think it was that game or the game before. But
you love Billings.
Grady Jackson, yes, as you guys know, really do like Andrew Billings. I love the way he plays football. They were playing him at 3 technique last year. That's how good of a football player. That's how the level he was playing at. But yeah, they take Shamar Turner to bring in Grady Jarrett. Grady Jarrett, his film speaks for itself. Obviously, he's getting a little older, but there's young guys like Javon Dexter. You want to see him take another step, put him next to Montez Sweat, right? So it's just kind of I may not agree with everything they did to rebuild their lines, but they have rebuilt them in the way that they want to rebuild them, right? So we'll see if their plan works out. But like you're saying, Billings coming back, Grady Jarrett, they got an extra second-round pick. I'm saying they shouldn't have. I'm saying stick there, take the left tackle, but they did, right? They got Shamar Turner. They add him to the room. I do love, man, I don't know how you can't love the violence that young man puts on film with his hands and the way he unrolls his hips and the way he gets rid of offensive linemen. You do love that with Javon Dexter. Hopefully Pickens can learn from these guys, maybe take a step. I don't know if he's the odd man out now in this group, but they have added assets to the line rooms, which Speaks knows I've been screaming about for too long now.
Yeah, you have. Man, the Burden pick, I feel you. I really like it because I think it's going to let Ben Johnson be creative. But does this feel different than last year when it was so obvious that they were falling in love with the weaponry, and they thought they could be this cute-ass 3 wide receiver team that threw it with Shane Waldron and then trick you into then being able to run. Like, Ben's thought process, I think, is different. Does it feel different? Even though they spent assets on tight end and wide receiver, does it feel a little different?
Yeah, and a tight end is basically another wide receiver, right?
Yeah.
So when you look at it, and the kid's, his route running is exceptional. He did have that shoulder injury that you worry about a little bit when you watch him on film last year. They weren't using him in line. Sometimes you can see him grabbing his shoulder, and maybe that affected his blocking. And as young as he is, maybe he can grow. And he's a big guy, right? He's 6'6", 250. That kind of guy can grow into a blocking tight end. But like you're saying, Speaks, you worry a little bit about, pass catching tight end, then a wide receiver. You guys heard me say on the draft show, it just seems like they're drafting guys to outsmart everybody, put as many weapons on the field. And look, with Ben Johnson and the way they do things, that could work. But as you guys know me and the way I look at football, line up, beat them up. Let's win football games that way. But they did get offensive linemen, right? They went and got Ozzy Trapilo. That's not a low pick. in the second round. They got Shamar Turner there too. So they did get 2 more picks, get 2 more linemen to put in to those rooms to beat guys up, to get after guys late in December at Soldier Field. How do we win football games? Got to run downhill, got to make plays, got to make the tough yards, get the tough games, get after people. So we will see as this goes on, and people are really high on Luther Bird, and you can see why when he catches the ball and after the catch, and the kind of handful he is for nickel backs and linebackers to cover him in the slot. So like the plan, I got to be honest, when I take a step back, there's things that, you know, we all say, man, I would have done this, because it's easy to be a Monday morning quarterback when you're not in the building up there at Hallis Hall. But when you take a step back and look at everything they've done this offseason with the coaching staff, with the guys they signed in free agencies, with the draft pick, this is a vastly improved football team. And if you think about the guys they've already have in that building, you say to yourself, okay, man, it's time for them to take a step, right? It's time for Darnell Wright to become an all-pro. It's time for him to become an all-pro, to take a leadership role in that locker room. Time for Roma Dunze to take a step. Caleb, of course, man, he's the guy. Right, we're talking about all this stuff. It's been a luxury this year, guys, not to talk about the quarterback. Don't talk about the quarterback, but it's been a luxury for us to complain about other things. Why can't the Bears take all these other positions? Because they got their quarterback, man. And that when you check that off, and he's got to take a step, and he's got to play better. And if he does, and all of a sudden you got the mind that we all think Ben Johnson is he a leader? Can he be a head coach at his young age? Can Declan Doyle take a step? Help him create schemes and plays against other teams. But as you guys can hear in my voice, the more I look at this team, the more I look at the way they're built, they got a chance, man. Now, guys got to take steps. Guys got to improve. Guys got to show they can do the things that they're capable of doing. But they have now, Ryan Post has built a team that looks like they can maybe take a step if everyone grows the way they're supposed to grow together.
So with all that goodness, Olin, and that was great,
Yes.
do these guys now look better in their suits? Does Warren look better in his suit? Does Ben Johnson look better in his suit?
It is time to write poems, right? We will all write poems now, right? Go to Byron Piccolo Award ceremony, write a poem, throw your linebacker under the bus. You know, that's all the feel-good moments that we can do there. But
Who did they throw under the bus?
It's just
TJ Edwards, right? He said.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Right. You did say that.
That was the bus running him over. But hey, he got a new contract, so he's just laughing about it, right? I got my money, I'm good. Listen, they haven't won, right? They have one winning season in 12 years, right? So it leaves you skeptical. It leaves you thinking about this football team, and can they get moving in the right direction? And then can they create the thing, guys, that everyone always talks about in football, but no one can describe? Can they create culture there, a winning culture, do things that it takes week in and week out to win in the NFL, which is extremely hard to do. But we will see as this year goes on.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that a little bit later. Olin, you're the man. That's a good-looking Miami of Ohio volleyball sweatshirt you're rocking right there. Congrats to your daughter, Grace, a commit for the 2025 team.
Oh, wow.
So
Thank you.
That's really cool. What's her level of toughness and competitiveness among
Maybe
your...
the toughest kid I got.
Yeah?
Tougher than the 2 boys in Illinois. She will compete now. She competes on a volleyball court. She gets after people. There is something we expect in this house, as you guys know me by now, and we hold people to that standard.
That's awesome.
Those poor boys.
Well, hey man, it's like you gotta be a badass to be as good as she is, and on her way to Miami. Thanks, Olin. Appreciate you.
Appreciate it, guys, man. Have a great day.